So I was looking at a time when a lot of people were, and a lot of my friends my age were kind of looking at winding down their careers. I would have been looking at starting a career and doing that. And that was challenging. Maybe do something completely different and try Spain. And I'm so glad I did because I love it here. One of the big benefits that I had not counted on when I moved overseas was that the biggest challenge is just that.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Retired Overseas podcast. I'm Kathleen Peddicord, founder of Live and Invest Overseas, and I'm delighted today to introduce you to a young woman, Beth Little, who has reinvented her life outside Barcelona, Spain. One of my questions was, had you had this idea before in your life? Was it an idea that you had maybe earlier on in life and had to set aside?
It is. My family had hosted exchange students for a lot of my growing up period, especially during middle school and high school. So I had traveled a lot in Europe to visit my exchange brothers and sisters in different locations. And I spent a lot of time in Europe. I majored in French and German in undergrad in University of Virginia and then in business there. And so I had always had this idea in my head that I would live in Europe at some point. I had spent a lot of time in Europe and loved it. And it just never worked out in my previous life. So I had originally thought maybe of moving to France because I had a lot of friends there and connections, and I spoke French, but I had been learning Spanish as like a pandemic project. So I thought, and I love Barcelona. It's one of my favorite cities. So I thought, okay, maybe do something completely different and try Spain. And I'm so glad I did because I love it here.
And so can I ask, what path to residency did you choose for Spain?
I came on a non-lucrative visa, which is also known as a retirement visa. So on that visa, I'm not allowed to work. It's a path mostly for retirees, but can be for anyone that has income that allows them to be here and not work. And I'm on that visa currently. I've renewed it twice. And so I'm coming up. I have about maybe 14 months left, and then I'll be eligible for permanent residency here.
Okay. All right. So you've been there 4 years? You've been in Spain 4 years. And is it everything you dreamed? Are you as in love with the idea and with the choice as you were from the start?
I am. I would say there's definitely things that are very different than what I expected and things that both better and worse. And then, I think you really have to have an open mind and be someone who is up for a challenge. And I think for me, I think the biggest success in myself and for other people who are moving here and other friends that I've made is the people that are open to kind of adapting themselves to the culture and the life here rather than expecting the culture and the life to adapt to them, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And I think it's the best advice that anyone thinking about this idea can be given.
I think if you can look at these challenges and these differences not as obstacles, but as adventures and
opportunities to grow. Yeah, exactly.
It makes it really fun.
So it sounds like you made the move maybe primarily for the adventure of it and the fresh start, the chance to reinvent yourself. Were there also more practical reasons, for example, cost of living?
Yes. So I'd had a career before my kids, and then because of some health issues and other challenges that came up, I wasn't able to go back to work full time. I worked in a number of really challenging jobs, but not ones with a career path. So I was looking at a time when a lot of people were, and a lot of my friends my age were kind of looking at winding down their careers. I would have been looking at starting a career and doing that. And that was challenging. I did have some resources in that I was selling a big house in New Jersey and had a divorce settlement, but it wasn't enough that I could live on in the United States. I would have had to really start a career at a challenging age, which I could have done. And I was fully confident that I was capable of doing that, but it was, it's a little daunting. So instead of taking on that adventure, I took on the adventure of moving to Europe. The advantage of that, and from a financial standpoint, is the cost of living is much less here. And for a lot of reasons, just the daily cost of living is less. I don't need a car and insurance here. I was able to buy a property at a much lower cost than it would have been in the U.S. So I'm really financially well set up here. And so now coming up to my 5-year residency, and now I have the opportunity to do a number of things that can be money making and income generating opportunities, but I don't need to do that. And like, I'm in a position where that's going to be my choice rather than my, my necessity.
So you have created a very enviable situation for yourself out of what could have been seen as a challenging circumstances at that stage of life, to find yourself on your own, your kids launched, empty nester, now suddenly you're single. What do you do next? Yeah. Is there a big expat community there?
There's a pretty good immigrant expat community because there's a large university here, and there's a big Repsol headquarters here just outside of town where they do all their research and development. And they have a big eco green campus there where they're developing a lot of renewable energy. So you get a lot of people that come here to do fellowships and learn the new technology at the Repsol plant and then the university. And then there's definitely some place that's better known inside of Spain and inside of Southern Europe. So you get people that want to retire to Spain and know this area.
So what was your plan for making friends and building a new infrastructure of community?
One of the big benefits that I had not counted on when I moved overseas was that in the immigrant expat community, people want to make friends, right? Because they're coming to a new place and they're reaching out, and there is a big network of people that do want to make friends. And I think if I had moved to a different city in the United States and had to relocate and start, there isn't that kind of natural, easy path to making friends as an adult and making community, where in the immigrant expat community, there is that kind of natural bond. And so I'd say at this point, I'm kind of like 50-50. I have some super close friends from all over the world. English is generally the kind of like common language, but it's literally from every corner of the world. Definitely not from English speaking countries in particular. And then 50% of people that are, native Catalan, native Spanish. But I got involved in the community. I volunteered teaching English in an elementary school when I first arrived here. And so I met a group of people that way, and it was super fun for me. And then the other real benefit of living in a Spanish community, which I just love, and I could never give this up, is that the sense of community in Spain is so strong. And there are, tonight is San Juan, for instance, but every 4 to 6 weeks, there's a huge party, celebration, community events, things that it's so easy to get involved and feel part of the community, even as someone who, didn't grow up here, didn't live here before this. Right. It's just a beautiful place to live. It's very inclusive and active. So it's very fun.
So your life really does sound ideal. You have built for yourself something very impressive. What about your new life do you not like? There must be challenges and downsides. What have been your biggest challenges?
The biggest challenge is just that it's more of an effort to see my kids and my friends and my family. I have 4 adult kids. Now, when I was looking at relocating, at the time they were in the 4 corners of the United States, so there was not a natural place for me to go. And over these ensuing years, they've also been in every corner of the world. Also, my oldest daughter has done an international medical program and was studying in Australia. One of my sons was working for 2 years in New Zealand. My other kids studied in Germany and Spain, and so my kids have been kind of all over the place. But it is sometimes challenging, is that we're moving into this young adult phase and the relationship is changing anyway, that we have to kind of plan visits and plan vacations. Right. But that has its ups and downs, right? Because I usually get to spend more time with them in an intense way instead of lots of little, kind of more casual small visits. So we've just had to adjust to that. And then the other adjustment is just, kind of sometimes missing out on those times when you wish you could just, hop over to the United States for some event or something, and it's just not that easy. The other part is just really that sometimes you just feel, that especially in those first 2 years, I think there's some of this time when you feel like, am I ever going to fit in? Am I ever going to feel like I belong here? Or am I always going to feel like an outsider? And I'm feeling that less and less. as time goes on. And I feel like that feeling is going to pretty much go away, except in very specific circumstances. But, there was that at the beginning. I think also the other big challenge I had, which I think is probably pretty common, but I was a criminal prosecutor and an elected official. I kind of spoke and communicated. It's part of my identity and is what I did for a living. And then you come here and you're like a toddler. You're like, I like sunshine. You like sunshine? It's a very nice day. And you're just at this level of, but you have to be, you have to be comfortable with being at that level of communicating and smiling a lot and, just talking and not being embarrassing. A lot of hands, a lot of, going into situations where you don't necessarily feel comfortable, but it's going to pay off in the end if you just keep pushing forward.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, I would say, is the biggest upside of making a move like what you've done. There are so many advantages and benefits. You can reduce your cost of living. You can have exactly the lifestyle that you've dreamed of, that your ideal life is city, beach, what have you. You can choose that, and that can be your life. You can have the weather you want, etc. But what I think turns out to be the biggest upside to this for anyone who does this anywhere in the world is that you just become every day a better version of yourself. You become more resourceful, more self-reliant, self-sufficient, more confident, and you have no choice but to be constantly using your brain and being engaged. And I think it helps keep you younger. I think it helps keep your brain younger. You're healthier overall because everything is new. So as you're describing, you're like a toddler and you're learning from nothing. You're learning all over again how to live a life, how to get through the day. And I think that's very healthy in so many ways, but it's not easy. And sometimes it's lonely.
Yeah. It's always an adventure.
Did your children or anyone else in your family kind of think you were a little crazy for wanting to do this? Was everyone very open to the idea from the start?
I'd say 2 of my kids were super enthusiastic and 2 were not sure. And my 2 kids who were less sure have now become more sure. So I think everyone's pretty, there's always ups and downs, but everybody's pretty on board now. My mom was really supportive of it from the beginning and she thought it was great. And she, like I said, she comes and stays for 3 months every year, which is really great. Most of my friends were pretty supportive. Some people, I think, thought it was crazy, but I'm okay with that. I think some people still think it's crazy, but yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, you have a really great perspective, really great attitude. So do you think you're there for good? Do you ever wonder, maybe I'll try somewhere else, or you're right now you're feeling very settled?
I feel pretty settled. I love that I have access to travel, and we travel a lot within Spain and outside of within Europe. So I love traveling. I love seeing new places. So I don't think I'll ever give that up. But like I said, I go to different places and I think, oh, this is so great. But then I think, but it doesn't have this, and this that Tarragona has. So I think this is my home, but that I love spending time in other places too.
So much wisdom, so much experience and wisdom that you have shared. Thank you for that. Really, really appreciate your time and all of your insights and your openness and willingness to share all of that. It's very helpful. I know for other people who are just at probably, again, a starting point of their journey. Thank you very much for your time today, Beth. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone listening. We will be in touch again next month with another new episode of the Retired Overseas podcast. I'm Kathleen Peddicord, and we'll be in touch again soon. Thank you all and take care.